So you're out there quoting work to be done, and all of a sudden, you're not winning as many quotes as you used to. Why might you be losing these quotes, and what can you do about it? What's up, guys? Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine and Tool back here again for Practical Machinist. And today on Machine Shop Talk, we're going to be diving into some of the many reasons why your quoting may not be working out, and some strategies you may be able to use to mitigate it, or at least some things you may be able to look at to start to figure it out. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so to give credit where credit is due, I was actually on the machining subreddit on Reddit. Good resource to check out question and answer type stuff. And I came across a thread that had a very familiar scenario to probably anybody who either owns a shop, has worked in quoting, or kind of the operations end of machining where you're the guy quoting work and seeing what kind of work comes in. So an individual came on to the machining subreddit, and it was a short post, but here's what I could extrapolate from it. They have a shop, or they work at a shop, again, it wasn't super clear, where they do the quoting. And I don't know how they didn't really explain how they figured out what another shop was quoting. But anyways, they've been quoting on jobs, and they recently quoted on a job, and this other shop quoted on it $10 less per part than they did. Now, they didn't say whether this is a 10% gap or a 50% gap. They didn't say what the original price of the part was. But either way, this other shop was managing to do this part in a quantity order for $10 less per part. And the person who came on and was posting about this was saying that they can't figure out how they're doing this. How are they undercutting me so hard? How are they making money at this price point? And just kind of reading some of the other stuff they posted, it sounded like this was not a new scenario. It sounded like whatever this situation is has been going on for at least a little bit. So they basically came on and they asked this question, and the repliers to this post had some very good points, but there was one post by an individual who came on to reply that broke down 7 reasons that I thought were absolutely fantastic. I thought it was great information. So I figured we'd go through them, and I'm going to add some of my commentary onto why some of these posts, or why some of these reasons may be a thing or may not be a thing. So the first reason this person listed to answer the question, why am I losing quotes to this other company, was that the other shop has a production hole that a large quantity order at a low price will fill long enough for them to get new work in. So in other words, they have time and they need a job to plug a hole, and this job fits. This makes sense to me. This shop is basically, we've talked about, keeping your spindles turning and stuff on here before. They're basically quoting lower than they usually would in order to keep people employed, keep spindles turning, better be making some money than no money, that kind of scenario. That's one of the reasons why this may be happening. This is a strategy that I think every shop uses from time to time. As I've said before, this is a bit of a gamble. You need to be careful taking on jobs for less than your shop rate, because if you're not careful, you'll turn around one day and all of a sudden your new discounted rate just to keep spindles turning is going to be your rate. I've done it. A lot of other shops have done it. You need to be very careful. Yes, if you need work or you want to keep a spindle turning, do it. But you need to make sure you're keeping on top of that pricing, because all of a sudden you can run that job 4 times and realize you're making about $3 an hour on that job by the time all the costs are taken out 5 years down the road. Something you need to keep on top of. The second reason this person listed that they may be losing quotes to this other shop is that the other shop might be deliberately undercutting them in order to get their foot in the door with this company, become a trusted vendor, and basically take all the work, especially the higher paid work once they're in. This situation is awful to have done to you as the company who's losing the quotes. It's a difficult one to tell from the company who's losing whether it's happening intentionally. But here's the thing, guys. The company that is undercutting and deliberately trying to be the cheapest price, They might not even know, and probably don't even know, that your shop is doing the work. This is not a thing that is usually, anyway, targeted directly at your shop. What that shop who's winning the quotes may be seeing is, this is a company that does a lot of work, there's a lot of opportunity here, we're gonna go in, undercut everybody, drive everybody out, and then start moving up pricing. This happens, companies do this intentionally, especially big companies that can throw their weight around with their resources. They can afford to not make the money that you need to make for a longer period of time because they have the reserves in order to cash that out later. It's a very difficult one to come to terms with because there's not much you can do about it. If you were the company on the losing end of this, you can race to the bottom or you can try to find new customers. It's also a dangerous strategy for the company who is undercutting because there's no saying that when they go to raise prices later, as typically you want to do, that the company who they're getting the work from isn't going to just go find someone else to do it cheaper. Bottom feeder companies are bottom feeder companies, so it's a gamble either way you cut it. In any case, the next reason 3, was that you are not as efficient as your competitor. They might have better staff, they may have better, faster, or automated equipment, better software, or better raw material vendors. This, to me, is probably one of the most likely scenarios as to what's actually happening in this scenario. Again, I'm going to keep saying this, but certain factors here are difficult to come to terms with because they're going to make you take a look at your own shop, and you may be identifying a scenario like this that you have been neglecting for a long time. In one of the previous episodes, we talked about a shop where a guy realized he had been neglecting upgrading his machines for a long time. All of a sudden, he turns around, looks around, and says, I've got a bunch of old machines I can't trust. I would have to spend millions of dollars to replace them all. I don't have automation. We were talking in one of the previous episodes. That shop didn't have CAM software. If you are a shop that does not invest properly, or you work at a shop that does not invest properly, it's very possible for that shop to limp along for a long time, even though they're not doing anything right. If they have the right customers, they don't need to be efficient because their margins are so stupid that they can be inefficient and get away with it. The problem is when a company like this comes in that is efficient and wants to eat your lunch. Now when you turn around and look at your shop and you need to hit a rate that they're hitting or hit a production output that they're hitting, you may need to spend millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars at least to be able to compete with them. It's a difficult one to face because now what do? It's very, very tough to deal with, and as we talked about in a previous episode, this is obviously something you want to keep on top of. If you're not upgrading your machines, you're not investing in your staff, you're not investing in good CAM software, you're not investing in tooling, you're really not going to be competitive for very long. Things keep moving forward, and if you're not, it's hard to say. The 4th reason that was given that I thought was very good, which I've had happen as well, is this other company may have a stockpile of raw material, offcuts, drops, laser cut burnouts that they're willing to get rid of at a super low price just to get that work out the door because they don't want that material anymore. So if this company's undercutting by $10, it could be that the cost of material for this job is $10. And it may be that they ordered a bunch of material for a job a long time ago and they had extra. This material is essentially free. It was built into the cost of another job. And now they're saying, well, let's burn it up. Let's give the material away for free. We'll just charge for labor, and they get rid of it. I've done this a million times. We just had a job running on the lathe where we had a whole bunch of offcuts of 1-inch diameter aluminum from a job probably 2 years ago that we just had sitting on the shelf. Job came in that was perfect for it. We bar fed it. It was a nice job. I got to save a little bit on the material costs that way because I had already paid for it. Again, if this is a scenario you're facing, and you may never know. That's one thing we need to say, guys. You may never know why you're actually losing it. But if this is the one reason why you're losing it, again, this is probably a one-off thing. People don't typically just have shops full of free material they can get rid of. You may be losing it on that basis, but that's likely not going to be a repeat scenario. The 5th reason was that this other company's exposure to capital may be less than yours, and they're still not paying for it. So what this means is every time you buy a machine, you are spending your capital. Whether you are spending your savings or you are financing, excuse me, that is your capital going out the door. When you spend money or you finance to get a machine on the floor, in every shop I know, you basically have to build the cost of that machine and the time it's being used and all the expenses go with it into your cost to produce a part. So let's say I buy a machine for $1 million, I'm gonna do 1 million parts. That means I'm gonna have $1 per part for my capital exposure on there that I need to charge, because that's what's gonna pay off my machine. Let's say that you're in a shop, or this competitor shop has a bunch of machines that are paid off and old. You know, maybe like my old machines in the back there. I don't really need to charge any kind of capital expenditure on those machines because they're paid for. They've paid for themselves 1 million times. I don't care if that makes that extra $2, $3 per hour to help cover the cost of the machine. I can bill it out for less. So if you're in a shop where you have really nice machines that are brand new, you're paying a lot towards them, and you're competing against a shop that maybe has all their machines paid off, you may not be able to hit their rate per hour as comfortably as they can because you still have the overhead that goes in there. Again, is this happening? Who knows? These are just scenarios to help explain what may be happening. The sixth and second last reason why this may be happening was that this shop's costing model may be out of date. We've talked about this before when it comes to figuring out rate per hour, when it comes to figuring out what your shop needs to make per hour in order to not only turn a profit, but survive and break even. You need to stay on top of this with laser focus. I think that COVID, one thing it did to a lot of shops when all the pricing on materials went crazy, it did make a lot of shops have to step back, look at their pricing on jobs and say, are we making money on this? Are we not? We're a couple years past now. Some of the material pricing has settled down. I don't know if other companies have been lax on it. I've caught myself not running my rate per hour on jobs as often as I should. You need to stay on top of this. One of the biggest culprits that will get you on this are long-running jobs that repeat year after year. You know, we have some customers that will give us the same job 4 times per year. And if I didn't update pricing since 2017 or 2010, even in some cases, that job would still be at the same price. And a job that was making, you know, that was billing out at 30 bucks per part 20 years ago would probably need to be triple that now because of material costs, labor, inflation, just to break even. You need to stay on top of this, even with good customers, even with jobs that repeat, because it's very easy for a job that's making $100 an hour profit to turn into a job that is making $5 an hour profit, or even costing you money if you're not staying on top of it. The final point was that your customer market may be in flux and you are not meeting the market. Review your marketing and your customer base. This, I think, is great advice. You know, I think this happens to everybody. When it comes to a machine shop, very few machine shops in year 1 will have the same 10 customers that they have in year 10. Very few machine shops in year 1 will have 3 customers that they still have in year 10. Yes, you want to develop long-standing relationships. We have customers we've had for 30 years. A lot of companies have. That said, that is the exception, not the rule. A lot of customers are going to drop off from your order book through no fault of your own. Maybe they pivot away from machining and now they're getting parts cast. Maybe they brought their machining processes in-house. Maybe they went out of business. Maybe they completely restructured. Who knows? There's a lot of reasons why you may start losing quotes for faults of your own. There are a lot of reasons why you will lose work through things you cannot control. You know, you can be the best supplier to a company forever, making this widget, but if that company says, we're not making that widget anymore, you're out of luck, right? So you need to stay on top of your sales all the time, and you want to be doing sales to find new customers when you don't need them. The absolute worst time to find new customers is when you're desperate for it, because you're gonna come off as desperate, which nobody likes. You're gonna take deals that are not advantageous to you or your shop. You're gonna take on work that probably isn't a good fit for your shop, and you're gonna end up in a worse situation than you were before. So make sure, even as soon as you see that start to drop off, or optimally, when you're busy, stay on top of your sales. Keep throwing lines in the water, keep getting in touch with other companies about what they may need, because you don't want to be chasing them up in a desperate situation. In any case, guys, again, I thought this was a fantastic list. I hope you guys found this informative as well. I'd like to know some of the reasons why you think this shop may be losing their quotes. Did I miss something? Has something like this happened to you? And did you figure out why you were losing them? I'd love to know in the comments below. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.